Welcome back. Now, NPCI International Payments Ltd, or NIPL, the international arm of NPCI, recently announced a partnership with the European payments company Worldline to enable Indian tourists to make payments in Europe via UPI and RuPay. Incorporated in 2020, NPCI's international payment arm is devoted for the deployment of RuPay and UPI outside of India and engaged in building a payment acceptance network overseas. To talk about NPCI's plans overseas and how Indians can benefit from NIPL's recent partnership in Europe and more, joining me now is Ritesh Shukla, the CEO of the company. Ritesh, a very warm welcome to you. Well, Ritesh, let's talk about your partnership with Worldline. It's been much in the news because you've signed the MOU, for tourists to make payments using UPI and RuPay in Europe. Now it's time for the implementation. Give us a sense of the timelines to begin with. How soon can these payments be made using UPI in Europe?
So, Worldline is the largest merchant acquirer in Europe. They have a footprint of about 1.1 million merchants. And the markets that they kind of focus on are France, Belgium, Netherlands, Switzerland. These are some of the big markets from our outbound tourism perspective. So we are looking at, enabling acceptance of UPI-powered apps to begin with Worldline partnership, wherein, our consumers from India using different UPI-powered apps will be able to scan the QRs at merchant establishments and make payments. So that's what we are looking at in terms of timelines. I think we are looking at closure of agreement in next couple of months, and then we get into technical discussions. And depending on the speed from both sides, I think it will be a couple of quarters before we go live. So that's what we are targeting. And, we are working very closely with them. They also realize the importance that India today represents globally. We are already the 5th largest economy. And I think as per the recent IMF report published last week, we will be 3rd largest in next 5 years or so. So there is a lot of merit in collaborating between us and Europe. And Worldline is going to be a very, very strategic partner for us in this regard.
You're starting with Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg and Switzerland. For the rest of Europe, would it take longer, or will all of Europe be covered in that 3 to 4 quarter timeline that you spoke of?
So it'll be a gradual rollout. Our focus is going to be in the countries that you mentioned, and please add France to it, because that's a very, very important market and also very, very strong market for Worldline. And apart from that, we are also talking to various other players in the market. And QR is very, very new to Europe. The deployment doesn't exist as much as it exists in the Asia and India in particular. So this is a build from ground zero. Yeah. But we are working with various players who have plans to, play a role in the QR-based acceptance space, or who have existing deployment in the QR space. So we are working with both people who are currently present and people who plan to be present. And we will, make sure that in times to come, there is, seamless acceptance across Europe for QR-based payments for UPI-powered apps.
Okay, Ritesh, yes, this will help make payments a lot more seamless for Indian travelers. But what about the cost angle? Because in card payments, typically card companies charge a foreign currency transaction fee, credit card companies add another percentage to it. So the fee could range from 1.5% to 3%, even more. Of course, it ranges from card to card. I know while UPI will not be setting this, but if you could give us a sense from an industry point of view, how transacting via UPI is going to compare to, say, Forex cards and credit cards that Indians currently use when traveling overseas?
So, Ritu, as you know, NPCI is a B2B company. We don't directly connect with consumers, but our effort, as you said, is to make it a competitive proposition. So we are going to work with the overall ecosystem to ensure that there is convenience in terms of the simplicity of usage. There is benefit on the economic side, and there is also, the use of more cutting-edge technology, which is mobile at the front of it. So we are looking at, adding value across 3, streams that I mentioned, and we'll work with the ecosystem and players in India in particular to ensure that, there is value for consumers as well economically when they use UPI-powered apps.
Ritesh, what next for, your overseas play? You have various partnerships across countries. Currently, how many countries can Indians transact in using the UPI? And, what are the expansion plans for other countries, if you could share with us?
So technically, for UPI acceptance, we are live in 3 markets, which is Singapore, UAE, and Bhutan. And we have also announced earlier, this year we had announced a partnership with Liquid Pay. With them, we are looking at gaining footprints in a lot of Southeast Asian markets, which is again, these markets are again very, very relevant for Indian tourism or tourists going overseas. So that's one. The other is with Worldline. We are looking at gaining footprints in the European market. We have also started discussions with players in North American market, but currently there aren't any existing QR code deployments. So we are working with partners who are looking at it in near future, because given what UPI has achieved in India in terms of cash, I think it adds a lot of value across the ecosystem. And with QR deployment, everybody who stands to play a role in this will help us acquire new flows, that is displace cash, and get more people on digital rails.
Well, Ritesh, we wait to hear